man is back.
Oh, okay, boys. Oh my gosh, the man got that stuff. This is a 5 out of freaking 5.
It is beat making time.
Next week is E3 week. My album comes out next week.
I have the leopard.
This is your boy.
All right, ladies and gentlemen of the YouTube citizens, y'all know who this is. This your boy, Dash the True Inferno. Back at it with another Pokemon Unite commentary video gameplay for you guys, and I forgot to upload a video last week, so I'm doing 2 again this week. And y'all know what we're talking about here. This is one of the biggest topics going on right now. So what am I talking about? Oh my God, excuse me, as a butt nearly came out. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about TikTok potentially being banned in the United States. So what's going on with that? So about a week ago, what ended up happening is this. The House of Representatives passed a bill on last week Wednesday, calling for the app's Chinese developer ByteDance to divest from the company or be booted out of U.S. App Store. So basically, what's going on here, the House of Representatives wants the Chinese developer to sell TikTok or the American version of TikTok to a U.S. company, and they have 6 months to do it, or the app is going to be banned in the United States. So that's what's going on here. Y'all probably heard about it. So let's talk about this. This is from an article, aljazeera.com. In case I said it wrong, it's ALJAZEERA. And they asked the question, why does the U.S. want ByteDance to divest from TikTok, aka to sell it? The battle over TikTok is the latest front in the U.S.-China competition in Washington's attempt to thwart potential foreign influence campaigns. In the case of TikTok, U.S. legislators fear that ByteDance could be secretly controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. The company has denied the allegations that it shares sensitive user data with the Chinese government. And this has been a rumor for a few years now, actually. And then here's a quote. ByteDance is not owned or controlled by the Chinese government. It is a private company, TikTok CEO Shu Chu said in a testimony before the Congress in March. And by the way, I believe he's a South Korean citizen, so keep that in mind as well. But Chinese regulators have a history of cracking down on domestic tech firms. Beijing is also well known for censoring politically sensitive content and restricting users from accessing Western social media and sites with its quote-unquote Great Firewall. And don't get me started with how things are done in China. Oh my goodness, if y'all don't know, oh my goodness. But moving on with the article. Marco Rubio, the Republican vice chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, expressed many of these fears this week when he said at an annual hearing on quote-unquote worldwide threat assessments, end quote, that, and I'm quoting him now, every company in China is controlled by the Chinese Communist Party, end quote. And this includes ByteDance. So that's the assumption here. Moving over to the quote. They happen to control a company that owns one of the world's best artificial intelligence algorithms. It's the one that's used in this country by TikTok, and it uses the data of Americans to basically read your mind and predict what videos you want to see, he said. Many U.S. legislators, and end quote by the way, many U.S. legislators in the White House believe that the sale of TikTok to a quote-unquote qualified buyer, end quote, likely a Western company, aka an American company, would cut off Chinese influence. The bill, however, does not stop there, but opens up the same provisions for other foreign adversary control apps or the operation of a content recommendation algorithm or an agreement with respect to data sharing, end quote. This could include other popular Chinese apps for apparel companies, Temu and Shein, following in the footsteps of other apps like Grindr. In 2020, the Chinese owner of the popular gay dating app was forced to sell for $600 million over national security concerns that app data could be used to blackmail Americans. Oh, I did not know that. That's interesting. So, what does TikTok have to say? Now, the CEO did drop a video on Twitter, so, and I saw that video. But outside of that, TikTok has denied the charge leveled against it, although it hasn't been very effective in convincing U.S. legislators. Of course not. CEO Chu's testimony before Congress last year was widely perceived to be, quote unquote, disastrous, end quote, as he failed to assert, how you pronounce this word? ASSUAGE, Assurge, I guess, concerns about Chinese influence over the app. So he failed to express his concerns, I guess. I guess that's what that means, but let's move on. I could be wrong in that, but let's move on. The Chinese government owns 1% stake in ByteDance and controls one of 3 board members in the Beijing-based company. Critics, though, say the hearing was unsuccessful in part due to grandstanding by legislators. One noticeable incident saw Chu, a Singaporean, so he's a Singaporean, my bad, and military reservist grilled on whether he supports the Chinese Communist Party in scenes reminiscent of the U.S. quote-unquote Red Scare of the 1950s. I never heard of that, but okay, interesting. Will the bill becomes legal? Now, Biden has said he will support a TikTok divestment bill, although there is a rival version from Senate Democrats that is currently stuck in committee. The Senate's Restrict Act empowers the Department of Commerce, to act directly to ban apps controlled by quote-unquote foreign adversaries, end quote. Whereas the House, quote, Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Application Act, end quote, starts at the White House. While the White House version had pulled ahead for the movement, it still had to be approved by the Senate and then signed by Biden before it can become law. This will be a challenging task in ordinary times, but 2024 is also in an election year, which is true, in the U.S., where the presidency, the entire House of Representatives, and 34 of 100 Senate seats are up for grabs. It is possible that progress may be delayed until after the November vote. ByteDance can also challenge any ban in U.S. courts, which is interesting. Moving on. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, a Democrat, released a short statement after the passage of the bill in the House, saying that the Senate, quote, will review the legislation when it comes over from the House, end quote. But support in a president to the bill does not fall along straight party lines. While a TikTok ban is supported by ranking Republican senators like Rubio, Senator Rand Paul, another Republican, has promised to block the bill, which he's considered unconstitutional. Oh my gosh, okay. Senator Kevin Cramer, a Republican from the conservative state of North Dakota, also told U.S. reporters not to hold their breath as the bill moves throughout the Senate. And here's the quote. It's hard for me to imagine that it would be real fast. We don't do things fast, which is good. We're designed not to do things fast, so I would think months, end quote. He was quoted as saying by the U.S. news broadcaster CBS News, which is interesting. Okay, now check this out. Former President Donald Trump, the Republican candidate for president, has also changed his position on TikTok. His administration tried to ban the app in 2020. Oh, I didn't know that. But switch sides 4 years later could earn him votes with younger voters in November, which is true. Oh my gosh. The U.S. federal government and several states have separately taken the initiative to restrict the use of TikTok. Oh, this is interesting. Montana last year became the first U.S. state to ban the app outright, although a legal challenge is underway. So now let's take a look at this. If the bill is passed, will TikTok be banned in the U.S.? The House version of the bill does not explicitly ban TikTok outright and gives ByteDance 6 months to basically sell its ownership. But some observers said this is a de facto ban, as Beijing is unlikely to approve this sale of TikTok to a Western or U.S. friendly company. So I thought it was just like the U.S. version of TikTok, but apparently they want them to sell all of it. So that's based on this article, which is interesting. Here's a quote. I do agree with TikTok that a law forcing divestment or ban likely means a ban, as PRC, People's Republic of China, policymakers are not likely to approve a forced divestment, end quote. That was said by the China watcher Bill Bishop, said in his Sinocrism newsletter this week. Continue on with the quote. One reason that PRC policymakers may say no to any divestment of TikTok is that TikTok is the first global internet platform from China. The government for years had talked about the need to increase its shares of international disclosure power about telling China stories real, which again is not good, but let's move on. Yet the global efforts to do that has primarily relied on U.S. platforms like YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, he wrote. Continue on with the quote. TikTok helps break that distribution stranglehold, end quote. Beijing appeared unwilling to buckle, saying Thursday that it would take all necessary measures to protect the interests of Chinese companies operating overseas. The U.S. should truly respect the principles of a market economy and fair competition. That was said by Chinese Ministry of Commerce spokesman. Is he Hey Yadon? And then that's what he said at a news conference, calling for Washington to, and I'm quoting here, stop unjustly suppressing foreign companies, end quote. Ooh. Continuing with the quote, China will take all necessary measures to resolutely safeguard its legitimate rights and interests. Is there a reason to worry about TikTok? So let's check this out. The University of Toronto Citizen Lab carried out a lengthy analysis of TikTok and its Chinese sister Douyin in 2021. It said that the evidence is inconclusive about whether TikTok employs political censorship or user posts, and that neither Douyin nor TikTok appears to exhibit overtly malicious behavior similar to those exhibited by malware, which is true. You get, and then, they obviously you can buy and sell stuff on TikTok. And matter of fact, I did purchase some TikTok a few hours ago. Author Pileon Lin says Douyin and TikTok also appear to share the same source code that was later customized for each market, as well as restrictions for content labeled hate speech, suicide prevention, and sensitive, with some political keywords restricted on Douyin but not on TikTok. We observed that some of these customizations can be turned on or off by different server return configuration values. We are concerned but cannot confirm that this capability may be used to turn on privacy violation hidden features, Lin said. TikTok's addictive nature have also raised concerns over its potential negative influence on children. But there should be an age limit, but that doesn't stop kids from getting on. But whatever, moving on. But critics of a ban say that the same can be said about other social media platforms such as Instagram, which is true. That is very, very true. So, I don't need to go over who opposed the TikTok ban. I'm pretty sure a lot of people do. But, yeah, there you go with that. And then we don't need to go over whether or not other countries ban or restrict access to TikTok, but I will mention some nevertheless. So, it looks like Nepal and India have both banned TikTok. In India's case, the ban is motivated by new day highs, ongoing geopolitical tension with Beijing. Oh, and this is interesting. Many governments include Afghanistan, Australia, Belgium, Canada, Denmark, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Taiwan, the UK, and UE governance bodies have all banned the apps from government phones. Okay. Pakistan and Indonesia have also gone back and forth on whether and how much to restrict access to TikTok. Okay, so yeah, it's kind of controversial. As my phone's read off. Now what I want to talk about is another article from Axios, AXIOS. So this is interesting because they talk about some numbers. So basically, a TikTok ban or forcer would say a historic precedent that could disrupt the US media ecosystem for years to come, which is very interesting. So why, and I'm going off that article here, why it matters. A law banning TikTok or forcing its sales, like the one the House recently approved, would not only face court challenges, which is more likely where this is going, probably next year, but could also trigger broader economic tensions between the U.S. and its rivals. We might turn out to have created a precedent that comes back to haunt us, said Anupam Chandler, a visiting scholar at Harvard University and a Georgetown University law professor. Other countries could use the U.S. move as a basis to force U.S. companies to sell their local operations or to transfer their technology to a foreign firm, Chandler told the article. And that concern is in part what driving some U.S. tech firms like Meta to remain relatively quiet on the TikTok issues. While Meta, aka Facebook, has in the past paid a public affairs firm to share negative stories about TikTok's content moderation issues. Oh yeah, that is true. There are some issues with TikTok moderation. Yeah, content moderation, that is true. It hasn't lobbied in favor of a ban. Meta on apps like WhatsApp and Instagram are often the most downloaded apps in markets outside of the US, alongside Chinese apps like TikTok, CapCut, and Shein. Less than half of Meta's revenue, 45%, came from North America last year. So far in 2024, more than one quarter of the 100 most downloaded apps in the US are owned by foreign companies, according to data from Apptopia. That's up from 20% in 2021, which is interesting. So in 2024, not only are a greater number for apps from China and Hong Kong, which is 6, but more apps from that region have made it to the top 10 most downloaded apps in the US so far this year compared to just one in 2021. TikTok was the most downloaded app in the US in 2021 and 2022 per Apptopia. Chinese e-commerce app Temu replaced it on that list in 2023, which is interesting. So far this year, Instagram's Threads is the most downloaded app in the US, followed by TikTok and Chinese e-commerce giant Temu, which is the Threads one is interesting, but let's move on. Shein, which is another Chinese e-commerce app, ranked 6. CapCut, a video editing app owned by TikTok parent ByteDance, ranked 7. So there you go with that. So let's take a look at the big picture. Foreign app developers have raised concern with proposed bills that they feel could give the US government too much power to ban apps without sufficient evidence of national security threats. Proton, a Swiss encrypted email company, has in the past argued that other bills designed to ban TikTok, such as the Restricted Act, give the federal government too much unchecked power to ban apps, which may have unintended consequences for internet freedom in the long term. Chandler notes that if the US were to pass a bill banning TikTok, unless it's so, it would essentially prove to other countries, particularly privacy skeptics in Europe, that the US apps could pose data privacy threats to their citizens. So, what to watch? For now, the US bill that passed last week seems to have lost momentum in the Senate, in part over First Amendment concerns. The intelligence community warned in an annual threat assessment last week that China has used TikTok to influence recent US elections, but Congress has so far failed to present any new evidence suggesting TikTok has used or is currently using the app to spy on Americans. TikTok said in response to the threat assessment that it regularly takes action against manipulation campaigns and report them publicly. So, what are my thoughts on all that? So, as it was pointed out in this Axios article, how you pronounce that thing, TikTok do have an issue with monitoring content. Like, they will, as my phone constantly going off, they will ban your videos, or they would like take down your videos for really no apparent reason. It's weird. It's very, very, very weird. I don't know why they do that. And then you have to lobby it to get it back up. And they'll also close down your video. Not your video. They'll close down your account for no reason. That happens to somebody that I'm cool with. I think that was last year. And then, like, he had to reach out to somebody who was close with TikTok to get his account back. It's weird. So their moderation system is terrible. It's kind of garbage. But outside of that, yeah, man, I mean, come on, man. Like, this is going to set a bad precedent in terms of the U.S. relationships with other countries. Because I believe it was said that the likes of Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all these other apps that are based in America are in other parts of the world. So if the U.S. is banning apps that were created from everywhere else, who's to say that these other countries will look at the U.S. and say, oh, y'all doing that? Okay, we're going to ban y'all apps in our countries. So there could be retaliation because, from that. Because the mindset here is it's okay for you guys to ban our apps because y'all afraid that, oh, we could be stealing your data, blah, blah, blah. Well, let's put the shoe in the other foot. Who's to say that your apps ain't taking our data from us and give it, and then making like trying to make U.S. like a monopoly in terms of getting data, quote unquote. So, yeah, if this bill passed, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. It's going to lead to lack of trust, actually, trust issues between the U.S. and pretty much every other country out there, unless they have some type of relation with them. But there are going to be trust issues that's going to come from this. And I'm probably thinking too far ahead. It could lead to more wars. So I think this is a case where the U.S. the government got to chill on this nonsense. And like the thing that was mentioned is this, and this is a very good point. This bill is going to take a long time for it to before anything goes on from it, because the election's coming up this year. We got, the Senate, and people are going to be hitting up saying like, no, don't let them pass this bill and things of that nature. And you got Biden. Biden is not in a good light right now where people are talking about, I don't care who's running against them. They are voting against Biden. Because Biden has been doing a crappy job. Like, let's keep it real. And even if it means voting for Donald Trump, which is some people have literally said, yo, if it's Trump again, I'm voting for Trump. That's what people have been saying. And I'm like, it's like it would be back to who's the worst of two evils here. Biden made himself worse now than he did when he was running against Trump, you know, a while back. But it's gonna be very, very interesting to see where this goes. Do I think that TikTok would be banned? I'm gonna be honest. I don't think TikTok would be banned. I think there's too much that needs to happen with the elections, with the Senate, and then with relationships with other countries regarding apps and trust and things of that nature. It's just too much that will say that it's just too much against the banning. It's just too much. That is against the banning. And then, you know, obviously you got court cases if this happens. And I don't know, like, who, like, in terms of the court case, who would ByteDance take to court? Like, and who would be the moderation in that court system? Like, it can't be in America. If they taking the government, like, how is that? I don't know how that would work. So it's too much. It's really, really too much. So I'm in favor of TikTok not being banned because TikTok is a fun app. I post videos on TikTok, True and Fun as part of my Go Adventures, and I'm often on TikTok from time to time, and I discover a lot of stuff because of the app. So I don't want it to be banned. I don't think it will be banned, but you still got to put the word out there with your local senate and say, hey, I don't want TikTok to be banned, and then we'll go from there. So that's my thoughts on that. I'm gonna call it a wrap. So with all that said, y'all know who this is. This is boy New J Gatsby, aka New Stephen A. Smith, saying peace out, y'all, and I'll see y'all next time. Yeah.